All right, guys, stay tuned, and we're going to talk about everybody involved with a transaction.
You better get fired up.
Guys, good seeing you. Hope you had a great weekend. We're here every single Monday at 11 o'clock where we talk about the hottest things in real estate. And today, I'm going to dig into everybody involved with a real estate transaction. Now, there are different people that can be involved in certain transactions that aren't involved in others, but I'm going to go through some of the basics, right? Just so you get a grand understanding of what's going on. So you've obviously got a buyer and a seller. I don't think I need to go too in depth on those. And then you've got agents, right? Most buyers, most sellers, I'm talking 90% plus, are going to have an agent representing them. Do you have to have an agent representing you? No. You can also go to court without getting an attorney. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can, and you'll save a little bit of money. You might get your butt kicked. You might lose. You might not know the law. There's all kinds of things that could happen to you that would be horrible. But I've seen people do it and do it successfully, right? But you do have a listing agent and a buyer's agent in addition to the buyer and the seller. Now, once you come together, all of those documents are going to go to a title closer, right? At a title company. And that title closer eventually on closing day is the one that the buyer and the seller are going to meet with to sign. Now, I can tell you, I've worked in Minnesota and in Florida. In Minnesota, and this was 20 years ago, so maybe things have changed. Buyer and seller, more often than not, came to closing together. They sat at one table, they met with the title closer, everybody signed, and it was great, right? In Florida, I think I've seen that maybe once or twice. Every other time, the seller picks a time, the buyer picks a time, they go at different times, maybe different rooms, whatever, and they sign with that closer. So you've got the closer. Now, the closer has, I'm going to hurt some feelings here because I probably shouldn't use this term, but I'm going to call it an assistant. They essentially do what I would say an assistant does. And sometimes they'll call them a processor, right? But that processor's job is to say, okay, you're going to close on this, but let me take care of a lot of the administrative work behind the scenes. Let me make sure that we're getting all the lien requests, and we're looking into the county and the city, and we're pulling together all the costs, and we're communicating with the buyer and the seller and the agents and everything else so that everybody knows what's going on. Let me do all that work so you can just show up on closing day and get the paperwork signed. Now, it's not that easy for the closer, but that's the goal. That's the goal of the processors, to take care of a lot of that admin work as much as possible, okay? Now, you've got an inspector. So once you go under contract, most contracts are going to have an inspection contingency period in there. It could be 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, whatever you come up with that a buyer and seller agree to, that's how many days you will get. So you put that in there, and now you can get your inspections done, okay? And there are different types of inspections. I've done videos on these, but traditionally you're going to have three main, I'll even add a fourth, inspections, right? You're going to have your normal home inspection, which is the big inspection everybody's thinking of, where they're checking out your plumbing and the floors, are they cracked, and the windows, are they cracked, and the roof, does it have a leak, and is there mold, and are there termites, and all those different things, right? Then you've got a 4-point, which talks about the 4 major parts of a home, which is your plumbing, your electric, your roof, and your AC. And then you've got a wind mitigation, which looks at the different credits that they can give you on insurance due to different things with the home, right? So those are your 3 major inspections. Now, if you are a government-backed loan, like a VA or an FHA loan, they're going to require that you get what's called a WDO inspection, a wood-destroying organisms. You can get it, though, even if you're not getting a government-backed loan. If you're conventional or cash, you can certainly get that as well. Here in Florida, at least in this area where I'm at, we've got kind of a mixture of concrete homes and wood frame homes. And a lot of people get really concerned with wood frame homes, and do they have termites, right? That's a wood destroying organism. I have seen termites twice, and I've sold hundreds of homes here, a lot of which were frame homes, wood frame homes. So it's not very common, but it certainly does happen. And it's certainly more prevalent in wood frame homes than in concrete homes. But that is an additional thing that you can get. But in addition to termites, the thing I do see often, like probably maybe 20-30% of the time, is wood rot, right? So specifically with your fascia boards, if they're wood, and with the framing around your doors, your exterior doors, what the inspector does is they take a little metal rod and they just lightly poke at it. And if it just hits it like a wall, well, then you don't have any wood rot, right? You get good, strong wood. It's good to go. But if it goes in like a toothpick into cake, well, then you've got a little bit of wood rot, right? And that's a problem. So I have wood rot on my fascia boards right now. I've got a section out there that's probably 1 inch by 1 inch. I'm never going to fix it. I'll probably fix it when I go to sell because I don't want it to be on the inspection report. But between now and then, I just don't care because it has very little impact on that wood. If I let it sit for another 10 years, maybe it'll be 2 inches by 2 inches instead of 1 inch by 1 inch. I just don't care. But could you fix it? Absolutely. Is it something I'm scared of? No. The only fear that I have when it comes to wood rot is the loan not going through because of that. With VA and FHA, they force you to do it. And if you don't do it, they'll stop the loan until it's done. So that's your inspector. All right. Now you've got a surveyor. A surveyor is going to be hired by the title company. They're going to come out and they're literally, their whole job is to determine the lines of your lot. Okay. So they're going to look at your lot lines. They'll show you on the survey, are there any easements? Are there any encroachments? Anything like that? I can tell you in Florida, I've never had an encroachment. I have had one encroachment in Minnesota. So it's very rare, but it can happen. An encroachment is when somebody else's property is encroaching onto your property and it shouldn't be. Maybe your neighbor built a garage or a shed or whatever, and it's over onto your property. That's an encroachment. That's a problem. An easement is where somebody has the right to use your property, but everybody's okay with it. It's in writing. It's legal. So let's go back to that garage. They're building over your area, but they approved it with you first. They said, hey, it's going to go a foot over. Are you okay with that? Yeah, I'm fine with that. Great. I'm going to have my lawyer draw up an easement. We'll record it and everything. Okay, cool. Now, yes, it is over, and he gets to borrow that specifically for the use of his garage, but it's owned by you, right? So you own it, but he has an easement over it. I've seen this too, where you've got a property that's landlocked. There's no roads, and they need a driveway over some neighbor's property to get to the main road. Okay, so the neighbor owns that land, but you have an easement over it, which means you don't own the land, but you do have the right to use it. Another one that virtually everybody has is utilities, right? They've got electric, water, gas, whatever, running underneath the ground, and they have the legal right to go in there, dig those pipes up and those lines up and alter them, change them, update them, replace them, whatever they want to do, right? They have the ability to do that, but it's your property. It's your land. You legally own it. And that's one big reason for setbacks. It's not just because we want room between neighbors. It's also because a lot of those lines run where those setbacks are, allowing those utility companies to do things like that, right? So the surveyor is going to come out and determine where all those lines are. Then you've got an appraiser. An appraiser is a third-party company. They're paid a flat fee. They're not commission-based, so they have no incentive to give a high number, a low number. They don't care what the number is. They're giving you an accurate number because they've been paid a flat fee to do a job. They're hired by the bank. So when you, the buyer, are using a lender, that lender is saying, okay, I know you, the buyer, are motivated to buy this property. So you might have overpaid for it. And I know that the buyer's agent is making a commission, and the lender is making a commission, and the listing agent's making a commission, and the seller wants to get this house sold for a high price. Everybody here has incentive for this to sell at or over price, right? Or at least it could be argued that you have that incentive. We want to know that our investment's going to be protected. So we're going to hire a third-party appraiser who is not making commission. They're making a flat fee, and they're going to determine the value of this property. Now, as long as, let's say you're paying 500 grand for it, as long as that that appraiser says it's worth 500 grand or more, you're good. If it comes in short, there's different things that you got to discuss. The deal could fall apart. They get put together more often than not, but it gets a little painful for a short period of time there. But that appraiser is there to protect that lender and also to protect you as a buyer. You might be coming from New York, paying 500 grand for a property that's worth 470. And you just don't know this market down here. And maybe you're not using an agent, or maybe your agent is new, or maybe you're whatever, right? It could be a million things. Now you've got a third-party company saying, it's only worth 470. So now the lender's only going to base their loan on 470. That other 30 grand between you and the seller, they either got to drop the price, or you got to come up with the cash difference, or the deal has to fall apart, right? One of those things has to happen. So that is the appraiser. So those are the major players that you've got involved in any one of these deals. And let's not forget, I forgot a big one, the lender, right? You've got the lender. Now, earlier I said the lender hires the appraiser, but you've got a lender. Lender is really two things, right? You've got the lender who's the face. That's the person you're seeing, the person who's working with you on the loan. That person's making a commission, but they might work for, say, Wells Fargo or Citibank or Chase or whoever. That is the underlying lender. This is the loan originator, right? The person that you meet is the loan originator. They're a salesperson. Yeah, they're there to help you, and they've got fiduciary duties and everything else. But then you've got the underlying bank, okay? So when that lender, that loan originator, gets everything that they need from you, they're going to submit it to their processor, who, kind of like the title processor, is admin focused. They want to take as much admin off the hands of that salesperson, that loan originator, so that loan originator can keep working with more people, giving great service to them. Okay. Once that person, the processor, has gotten everything that they want situated, now they're going to submit it down to underwriting. Underwriting is the bank. That's the Wells Fargo or the Citibank or the Chase or whoever it is that you're using. They are the ones who are then hiring the appraisal. All right. So underwriting's job is to protect the bank. Is this person buying something that if they default and we get it back, we're going to be okay with this asset and what we've put into it money wise? If we are, let's approve it. If we're not, maybe we got to send certain requests like, hey, we need more paperwork, or hey, we'll let you do it if you do this thing. Or they say, timeout, you can't buy this one, right? For a various load of different reasons. So those are all the main players that you've got in a transaction like this. I could go into the marketing, I could go into the photos and all that kind of stuff. That's before we get it on the market. But when you're looking at the actual, hey, we're under contract, those are the major players that you've got involved there. Guys, hopefully that was clear and it made sense. If you've got any questions or was something I poorly explained, feel free to put that down in the comments and I'm happy to answer it. Thanks for joining me. And if you've got ideas for next Monday's What's Hot, feel free to let me know in a private DM over Facebook. Guys, thanks for joining me. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.